Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button if you guys are enjoying the content that we're throwing up. And make sure you guys hit the like button if you enjoy the video. And yeah, let's begin. Okay, so I've been posting about this on social media, and here's the thing: myself and Sal over at Sal Says What, and Benny, or I guess at Comic Pop, and then Benny over at Comic Story, and we all have our own things, right? Like Benny's the Batman guy, Sal's the Spider-Man guy, I'm the X-Men guy. I'd be able to tell you I could probably hold my own against like 99.99999% of people out there who read X-Men comics, right? Like I know what I'm talking about because I've been reading X-Men for that long. X-Men was like the first comic book that I cared about because it was on the first comic book show that I ever saw that I cared about, right? Like I saw X-Men the animated series before I saw Batman, which is why I say X-Men's better than Batman, one, because it is, and two, because it is. I've been tracking the X-Men for years, like for over 2 decades, right? Like 24, 25 years I've been reading X-Men comics. I have been there through thick and thin. I have seen terrible X-Men stories, right? Like pretty much everything that Chuck Austen wrote after Grant Morrison left, pretty much everything that Chris Claremont wrote after he left and then came back, so like Extreme X-Men, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I've read like amazing stories, right? Like House of M and not the Onslaught Saga, that story sucked, but like the Phoenix Saga, the Dark Phoenix Saga, like even if I wasn't old enough to be able to read those comics at the time, like I've read the back issues. So like I've read so much X-Men over the years, it's absolutely insane. And I would say I'm probably in the top 1% of people in the world who can call themselves like an authority on the X-Men. And I don't say that out of arrogance, I say it because it's true, because I've just been reading them that freaking long. And so with that being said, Marvel has had like these ups and downs when it comes to the X-Men, right? Like in the early 1990s, it was like X-Men everything, right? Like everything was the X-Men. If it had X slapped on it and if it was part of the X universe, it sold. That's just the way it was, right? Like you had the original X-Men by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, didn't sell well. They tried to rework it and everything. And then Chris Claremont took over. And like, that's when it exploded. Then you got New Mutants and you got Generation X and you got X Factor by Louise Simonson and Walter Simonson, which was originally written by Bob Layton. And you got like all these X-Men related publications, right? Like X Factor, which was the newest iteration, the government sanctioned team, and then you get Extreme X-Men, which sucked, and then you get, you know, X-Static, which sucked, and you get like all these different things, you know, X-Statics, whatever it was, it's stupid. Like you get all these different stories over the years. But with the X-Men as a whole, like they're probably one of the most popular and most interesting and diverse teams out there, right? Because it's just like a crazy amount of power in like such a small group of people. We have mutants. Well, what does that mean? It means we can do whatever we want to because the plot calls for it. So they're all basically like a giant amalgamation of Batman, right? Like Batman can do whatever he needs to do because the plot demands it, and that's it, right? Like I can save the universe because the plot requires me to, and so there we go. Like it's kind of crazy when you get down to it, but like Hickman writing the X-Men is nuts because in my mind, the X-Men haven't really been interesting or cool for like 11 years, right? Like since 2008, 2009, roughly 2010. So maybe between like 9 and 11 years. Like basically everything after Messiah War is when the X-Men lost interest in me. Like we got all new X-Men, which was like a time displaced team. Who cares? Like they weren't cool when Stan Lee and Jack Kirby wrote them, and they weren't cool when Brian Michael Bendis was writing them. Like it's just the way it is. Like that nobody cares about the young X-Men. Nobody cares about a team that's like pretty white kids with problems. Nobody cares about that. Like people want to see like a cool, you know, interesting scenario where people are like struggling and stuff, and then like somebody comes along with some godly powers and just like wreck shit. Like people want to see that, right? Like that's like, it's like reading the Incredible Hulk without the Incredible Hulk. Like basically Avengers Endgame. Like, hey guys, you know how you wanted to see that rematch between Hulk and Thanos? Well, you're not gonna get it. Instead, the Incredible Hulk is basically gonna be like an Apple Store employee, and that's essentially it. And so when I look at Hickman writing the X-Men, it's gonna be nuts because my initial thought when Marvel first announced it is they said, okay, so Hickman is writing House of X and Powers of X. And I was like, okay, so basically 2 6-issue miniseries. So we're gonna get like 2 6-issue miniseries rotating bi-weekly. What does that mean? Well, it means every 2 weeks you're gonna get one of the books. So let's say that like we started now. It would mean like on today, the 14th, the Wednesday that this video is being made, that we would get you know, House of X #1. And then next Wednesday we would get Powers of X #1. The Wednesday after that we would get House of X #2, and the Wednesday after that we would get Powers of X #2. So basically you get a Jonathan Hickman X-Men book, the miniseries, like every single single week. So for those of you guys who are reading DC, think Action Comics and Superman, or Batman and Detective is basically how this would rotate. And I was like, okay, so basically 2 miniseries. I mean, it'll be cool. I kind of wish you would write the whole X-Men book, like write Uncanny X-Men as a whole and like really take off with it. But I guess if all he's gonna do is 2 miniseries, maybe it's a test bed to see whether or not he can write the X-Men or something along those lines. And so I was like, okay, cool, whatever. And I'll check it out and I'll cover it, and that'll be that. And then Marvel comes out and they're like, no, that's not what we're doing. We're not doing just 2 Jonathan Hickman miniseries. We're rebooting it all. Like, it's all getting reworked and everything. We're canceling every single X-Men team. We're canceling every single X-Men book. It's all going away. And Hickman's gonna write House of X, Powers of X. That's gonna set the stage for everything after, which Jonathan Hickman is gonna write. Here is the thing. Dude, it's gonna be ridiculously good, because people who aren't really familiar with comics are like, okay, why do I care? Because it's gonna be one of the greatest books you ever read. That's why. Like, when Jonathan Hickman wrote the Fantastic Four, he started off with the Dark Reign miniseries, right? Which didn't really have anything to do with Dark Reign, except for like Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin, showing up on the doorstep of like the Fantastic Four and just being like, so I want to take over the Baxter Building and I need to talk to the Fantastic Four. And the only people there were like, I think Valeria Richards and Franklin Richards and like maybe Ben Grimm, because he's lazy and just sits around all day doing nothing. Like, he's like, dude, Ben Grimm's like the laziest person ever. Like, he never does anything, right? He just says like, it's clobbering time, and then he's winded 2 minutes into it. Dude, he's just fat and lazy. And like, anyway, so Norman Osborn goes into the Baxter Building, and literally like Franklin Richards runs up on him with like a toy gun, like this little toy pop gun, and then pulls a trigger and it fires a real bullet. He just like fabricated a bullet out of thin air and then shot Norman Osborn with it. Norman Osborn was like, okay, yeah, so like this was a terrible idea. Of all the bad ideas I've ever had, this was like the worst. And it was like, because I basically broke into the house of a kid who can warp reality on a universal scale. This kid could turn me into like a tuna fish. He could turn me into like I don't know, like something interesting, as opposed to just a guy who talks to voices and is basically like a poor man's Joker. Like he could do almost anything to me. So I should probably not like break into this house and do this thing. Like that's it. That's all you really get with the Dark Reign thing. I mean, you get like little tie-ins, like little things here and there. Like, you basically learn that Reed Richards is talking to what you eventually discover to be the Council of Reeds, but like none of that really comes to fruition and makes sense until you get into like the main Fantastic Four story. And that's a crazy thing, is because like it's gonna be like this awesome, crazy cool experience. At least fingers crossed, I hope it is. I don't know why it wouldn't be, but it's gonna be like this crazy awesome experience. But here's the thing, it's gonna have like these crazy moments, right? Like, you're gonna have like these crazy little moments here and there, which is all gonna lead up to something nuts, like something bonkers. Like, I really hope he does do to like the villain Apocalypse, where he's like, okay, so we're bringing Apocalypse back because this guy is OP. Dude, let me tell you something, man. Apocalypse is so OP, and he's like the one villain Marvel never knows what to do with, because you know, like, nobody really cares enough to figure it out. They tried that like Apocalypse Wars crossover event that happened over the course of like, what is it, Extraordinary X-Men and Uncanny X-Men and All New X-Men or something like that, and it was dumb. But like, here's the thing, dude, Apocalypse, like, if he's written correctly, oh dude, Apocalypse will clean house. Dude, Apocalypse will wreck everybody. You're talking about a guy who subdued the Incredible Hulk. You're talking about a guy, I don't know if he's ever fought Juggernaut, but I don't know if we could ever really stop him either. I mean, he's channeling like the power of the Celestial, so maybe, I have no idea. But you're essentially talking about a villain that a full contingent of the X-Men, like a full contingent, like all the X-Men on their best day could not defeat him. There was one point, it was during the lead up to the origin of Cable, and it was like Cyclops and the X Factor. So like Cyclops, Jean Grey, Iceman, Beast, and Angel, along with like all new X-Men, so like Wolverine, Colossus, and all those guys, teaming up with like the Inhumans, because whatever, and like none of them could stop Apocalypse. Like, he basically faced off against them all. Like that's happened on multiple occasions. Apocalypse has faced off against like the Avengers and the X-Men at the same time, and it's all they can do to hold him off. Like, dude, this guy is broken. Like, it's crazy how powerful he is. And if you give him to Jonathan Hickman, oh dude, Apocalypse will clean house. Dude, he'll walk in there and be like, okay, so like everybody's gonna die, and just obliterate all the X-Men, just like in one fell swoop. All the X-Men are basically gone. It would be bonkers, dude. Mr. Sinister, dude, he could do like Angel properly, like Warren Worthington. He could do him like there's so much he could do with this. Like, he'd probably do it like where you ended up having like the Fantastic Four run, where like some crazy event happens at the end, like maybe somebody comes back from the future. I don't really know. Jonathan Hickman doesn't usually repeat the same gag twice, and so like regardless of what it is, like it'd be bonkers, right? Like Holocaust, we already have like Dark Beast who's in existence, and as far as I'm aware, there's no reason to believe he's going to base anything about what he's doing off of what Matthew Rosenberg's doing, right? So like Rosenberg's going to finish, and then Hickman's going to be like, and whatever, that's all back there, and then he's going to draw from like a litany. Oh, dude, the Phoenix Force, dude. Okay, here's the thing, because Hickman would do something like this. Hickman would come along and say, okay, so like we're going to retell the origin of the Phoenix Force, and like we're going to go through the origin of the X-Men, and we're going to like retool Juggernaut, and we're going to do like all these crazy things. Because imagine like Juggernaut versus Apocalypse, or imagine like Juggernaut versus like all the X-Men of the Phoenix, like Juggernaut at 100% power, which we've only ever seen like 2 or 3 times, right? We saw 8th Day Juggernaut, we saw Tryon Juggernaut, which was where he basically like punched a hole in reality, and then we saw like Juggernaut when he was wielding the hammer of Scatty, so during like Fear itself. So like we've seen these crazy versions of characters, but like it would be like, I can't even imagine. It would just be like some grand poobah huge thing that happens at the end where it's like some guys behind it all, like the X-Men have to face him, you know, and like it would become absolute bonkers. Like who knows? But it's I can guarantee, I can't guarantee you a whole lot of stuff about what Hickman's gonna do, but I can guarantee you this: it's gonna be one hell of a run. So like Hickman's X-Men, like House of X, Powers of X, Hickman's run on the X-Men team, like you need to read this. Like I mean, I'm definitely gonna cover it, but like you need to read this, because like when this is all said and done, you want to be one of the people posting on forums or social media or whatever who are like, I followed the whole thing from start to finish, because it'll be rewarding. You'll be like, dude, like, because he'll finish, it'll be like the last issue, he'll finish and he'll put the pen down and you'll close the comic book and you'll put the comic down and you'll be like, dude, that was one hell of a ride. And like it's gonna be boss. Like it's gonna be, I mean, seeing Storm at like 100% power, where she's just like wreaking havoc with the entire Earth's ecosystem. Because here's the thing, Storm herself, oh, let me tell you something, man. If Storm went on a rampage, right? Like somebody did something crazy and like killed Black Panther, and like Storm just loses her mind, right? Or like somebody takes this parking spot she was waiting on, whatever the case is, like if somebody does something that like just pisses her off, dude, Storm, oh dude, she could turn the world upside down. I mean, dude, let me tell you something, man. Like, dude, there's few people out there in the world who could stop Storm once she like snaps, and it's just kind of like, okay, so like the entire Earth's ecosystem is going to go to pieces. It'll be like that movie, what is it, The Day After Tomorrow, except like not environmentalist propaganda. Like it'll be like amazing. It would be amazing. Like it would be a sight to behold. But yeah, like regardless of what happens, it's gonna be boss. That's basically what I'm telling you here. It's like Hickman writing the X-Men is gonna be insane. It's gonna be one of like the coolest things ever. So yeah, normally we would drop a DC video today. Why? I mean, this is way bigger than anything DC has going on. But yeah, anyway, with that being said, guys, we're gonna bring this video to an end. If you are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments about your excitement for Jonathan Hickman writing the X-Men, and I will catch you all later. Peace.